Charles Prince Napoleon is a French politician, and is recognized by some Bonapartists as the head of the Imperial House of France and as heir to the rights and legacy established by his great-great-granduncle, Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Other Bonapartists consider his son Jean-Christophe to be the current head of the house and heir. Family background: Charles is the elder son of the late Louis, Prince Napoleon, and as such a great-great-grandson in the male line of Jérôme Bonaparte, King of Westphalia, Napoleon's youngest brother. As neither Napoleon I nor Napoleon III of France have surviving legitimate issue in the male line, Jérôme's descendants represent the only imperial Bonaparte still living. In 2011, a study of DNA extracted from Napoleon I's beard and compared to that of Charles was found to match substantially, establishing that both were members of the male line of the Imperial House of Bonaparte. Charles's mother is Alix de Forster, daughter of Alberic, Comte de Forster. Although she was the only consort of the surviving imperial line not born a princess, her family had been nobles in Lombardy since the 13th century, becoming Counts Palatine in 1330, Constables of Venice in 1425, then retainers of the powerful Doria family in Genoa. They settled in Provence, France early in the 16th century, where they acquired 22 manors and the title of Marquis by 1651. Ironically, the Foresters distinguished themselves during the French Restoration as courtiers loyal to the House of Bourbon, and to Henry. Comte de Chambord in particular, long established his squires of large estates and rice paddies in the Camargue. The Foresters often welcomed Charles and his siblings there while they were growing up. Charles was born in Boulogne-Billancourt, France, along with his twin sister, Princess Catherine. He was baptized at St. Louis des Invalides by the Apostolic Nuncio to France, Archbishop Angelo Roncalli. Charles spent much of his youth at the family's ancestral retreat in exile, the Villa Prangins on Lake Geneva between Lausanne and Geneva in Switzerland. He has two younger siblings, Princess Laure and Prince Jérôme. His sisters are married, but the French imperial line of succession never descended to or through women, while his brother married at the age of 56 and has no issue. Education and profession: Charles attended school at Saint Croix des Neiges in Abondance, Haute-Savoie, taking off 1964-1965 to study German in the Black Forest. He holds a doctorate in economics from the Sorbonne. He has written essays and books, including History of Urban Transportation, Bonaparte and Paoli, The Bonaparte Rebels at Heart, and For a New Republic. He makes frequent public appearances in support of his political beliefs and candidacies. Charles has worked professionally as a banker, financial planner, and real estate developer, and as a visiting professor at the American Institute on Foreign Policy. Marriage and children. On the 19th of December 1978, Charles married his distant cousin, Princess Beatrice of Bourbon to Sicilies, daughter of Prince Ferdinand, Duke of Castro, a pretender to the throne of the Two Sicilies. Although both families are Roman Catholic, the couple declined religious nuptials in favor of a civil wedding in Paris. Charles and Beatrice had two children. Princess Caroline Napoleon married Eric Alain-Marie Quéret-Onfroy de Bréville, son of François Quéret-Onfroy de Bréville and his wife Christiane Vincent de Vaugelas, on the 19th of September 2009 in Castellabate nel Cilento, Italy. Elvire Quéret-Onfroy de Bréville, Augustin Quéret-Onfroy de Bréville, Jean-Christophe, Prince Napoleon or Prince Imperial. Charles and Beatrice were divorced on the 2nd of May 1989. On the 28th of September 1996, Charles was married in a civil ceremony to Jean-Françoise Vallichoni. She had previously married Eric Langrise on 15 July 1978 at Castiglione, Corsica, from whom she was divorced on 24 July 1990. When Charles and Jean-Françoise wed, they already had a daughter, Sophie Catherine Napoléon. In 1998 the couple adopted a daughter of Vietnamese extraction, ANH Napoléon. Dynastic Dispute. Although officially recognized as heir apparent to the Bonapartist claim during the lifetime of his father Prince Louis Napoleon, when the latter's will was made public on 2 December 1997, it declared that Prince Charles was to be bypassed as dynastic heir in favor of his only son, Prince Jean-Christophe Napoleon, then 11 years old. In an interview published by Le Figaro on 2 December 1997, Jean-Marc Varaut, the attorney who witnessed the late Prince Louis Napoleon's will and subsequently represented the dynastic interests of Prince Jean-Christophe against his father, stated that Prince Charles had alienated himself from the Bonaparte legacy by publicly espousing Republican and democratic opinions. He has deprived himself of all rights to dynastic heritage and remarrying without his father's permission, which is against the rules of the imperial family. In his will, Louis cited 3 sources for his authority to exclude his son as dynastic heir. The Senatus Consultus of 7 November 1852. It states, in relevant part, Article 3, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, if he has no male children, may adopt the legitimate children and descendants in the male line of the brothers of Emperor Napoleon I. His adopted sons may only be called upon to succeed him after his legitimate descendants. Adoption is forbidden to Louis Napoleon's successors and to their descendants. Article 4 Louis Napoleon Bonaparte shall determine, by an organic decree addressed to the Senate and deposited in its archives, the order of succession to the throne within the Bonaparte family, in case there remains no direct heir, legitimate or adopted. The members of the family of Louis Napoleon Bonaparte eligible for the succession, and their descendants of both sexes, are members of the imperial family. They may not marry without the emperor's authorization. Their marriage without such authorization entails loss of all rights of succession, both for him and who contracts the marriage and his descendants. Nevertheless, if there are no children of the marriage and it is dissolved by death, the prince who contracted the marriage shall recover his succession rights. The Imperial Family Statute of 21 June 1853. It substantially reinstated the House law adopted under Napoleon I on 30 March 1806, which provided that marriages of dynasts required the prior, written consent of the Emperor de jure, or were void, that divorce was forbidden for members of the imperial family, and that the Emperor de jure retained the right to supervise and discipline members of the dynasty, including the right to arrest, shun, or banish a dynast who engages in misbehavior and forgets his dignity or duties, for up to 1 year. Dynastic tradition. Among the Bonaparte, this includes legal changes in the succession order during the First and Second Empires, and post-monarchy attempts to change heirs by testament. Napoleon I quarreled openly with some of his brothers, particularly over their marriages, and dethroned or dynasticized them. When Napoleon III's only son, the Prince Imperial Louis Napoleon, died in 1879, his will purported to exclude his cousin and genealogical heir, Prince Napoleon Joseph, from headship of the deposed dynasty due to political differences, in favor of his elder son, Prince Victor Napoleon. Although almost all Bonapartists therefore recognized his son, Napoleon Joseph insisted that his dynastic claim remained intact. Yet as imperial pretender he likewise disavowed his heir, writing in his will, "I leave nothing to Victor, my elder son. He is a traitor and a rebel. I recommend to my son Louis to remain faithful to my political and religious opinions. They are in the true tradition of my uncle Napoleon I. I hope that Louis will be the representative of the cause of the Napoleons. His aim must be to organize French democracy." Charles has expressed skepticism that his father's genuine intention was to disinherit him dynastically. Without doubt, he had a mood swing, exploited by conservative elements in his entourage with whom I have long clashed. I am fighting so that my family ceases to be the victim of attempted manipulation. Moreover, Prince Charles denies that his father had the authority, by law or tradition, to exclude him from the order of succession. Even if I accept their premise, referring me to the Senatus Consultus of Napoleon III, divorce did not exist under the Second Empire, so it cannot be taken into account for the succession. Moreover, the hypocrisy of this argument is exposed by the dates. My father's will was written in May 1996. I only remarried in October. All that matters is the Bonaparte tradition, which makes the eldest son the natural heir of his father, aside from his second marriage. Varrout alleged that Louis was offended that his son unilaterally had French civil authorities change their surname from Napoléon Bonaparte to Napoleon during his divorce in 1989. But Charles maintained that the family's legal surname had, in fact, been Napoleon until altered through clerical error on his birth certificate. When Charles requested that his surname be corrected, the civil authorities proceeded to apply the same change to the father's surname, but not at my initiative. Varrout further drew attention to the fact that Charles was warned in advance by his father that he would be purged from the succession, and that he had responded to his father with a letter dated the 16th of June 1996 in which he asserted that his Republican beliefs had already alienated him from the principles of the imperial position, even before his father's decision to exclude him. When queried by the French weekly Point of View as to why he claimed headship of the imperial dynasty in view of his republican pretensions, Charles replied, "I assume the moral heritage of my name. To renounce today to my ability to become the head of our house would imply that I accept a certain number of grievances of which I have been accused. I cannot accept this sentence from another era. As for my republican sentiments, those who reproach me misunderstand the history of our family. Bonaparte, general, then first consul, defended the Republic. Charles and his son have not engaged in the public feuding for which some of the past Bonaparte pretenders and their heirs have been notorious, and the father has stated of his son that there will never be conflict between us." A pre-screening of Un Nom Héritage, a documentary television series on France's former dynasties, was the subject of a two-page spread in a December 2006 issue of Point of View that pictured Charles side-by-side with Jean-Christophe, both shown as participating in a cordial meeting between Napoleonic and Orleanist pretenders. Nonetheless, in November 2004 an issue of Point of View had announced that henceforth the magazine would accord the Bonapartist title of Pretense, the Prince Napoleon, to Jean-Christophe, whereas since 1997 that title had been attributed to Charles. This decision followed receipt by the magazine of a protest from Jean-Marc Varrout, prompted by publication in an earlier issue of a reference to Charles as head of the imperial house. Point of View, which sometimes gazettes monarchist announcements, published Varrout's reassertion of the dynastic exclusion of Charles along with the prince's response. The title of head of family among the Bonaparte devolves, at the death of the father, upon his eldest son. That rule is not susceptible to modification by the title holder, a fortiori when the motives involved are petty and contrary to the civil code. I have the honor of bearing this charge since the death of my father, and my son will assume it in turn upon my death. Political career. In 2000, Charles stood for election as mayor of Ajaccio, the historical seat of the Bonaparte in Corsica. Subsequently, he served as a member of the Ajaccio City Council, and in 2004 he held the post of deputy mayor in that city. In early 2008, Charles announced plans to stand for election in March 2008 as mayor of Nemours. where he leads a union list called Ensemble pour les Némorians, with local personalities, such as Gonnet Tardy. In the election, he was defeated by Valéry Lacroute. Titles and styles. 19 October 1950 to 3 May 1997. His Imperial Highness the Prince Imperial. 3 May 1997 present. His Imperial Highness the Prince Napoléon. Ancestry.